Yeah. Certainly, good evening, good evening, good evening. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we are certainly rejoicing and being glad in it. I'm Adolphus Lacey. I'm your host as we explore Civic Conversations, as we seek to engage in discussion surrounding what is happening in the world, but yet rooted in what are the realities, because sometimes you can say something but not understand what causes it. And so we do this every night on Tuesday nights when the Lord is available, or we are available, Lord willing that we are available, then we seek to do it. So I'm certainly glad that you're here. And so as we prepare to start, because we are a faith-based institution, we always start in prayer. In our regard, I'm going to ask Reverend E. Tyrone Pittman to open us up in prayer.
Thank you, Pastor. Good evening, everyone. Dear God, our Father and our mothers, once more again that we bow in your presence. First of all, just to thank you for the blessings of this day, from the rising of the sun to the setting of the same. Indeed, you have been good. We thank you for directing our hearts, our minds, yea, even our spirits to this platform on this evening as we seek to learn more of you, even through the things that we are experiencing, not just in our city or country, but throughout this world. But at the end of the day, we would still testify that indeed you are God and you are good. We pray that indeed you might use our senior pastor, your son and servant, one Adolphus C. Lacey, even now. Hasten the arrival of your sons and daughters that we may all have a robust conversation on this evening. Indeed, we give your name the glory and the honor because you're still worthy of every praise. In the name of Jesus, we pray and say together, amen and amen.
Amen. Amen. Brothers and sisters, tag and share. Spread the word. Class is in session. Hey, beloved, I'm just glad to be here. Behind me on my my board is a number 378. And all that is 378 days to the presidential election. 378. It don't seem like a lot, or maybe it seems like a lot, but that's an important number for you to remember. 378 as we seek to count down to what is to happen next. And ironically, what is going on in the Middle East will determine what will happen in 378 days. That's the deal. 100%. Or what's happening in the eastern part of Africa. Because one thing that I love to always say is that the Middle East is in Africa. Sometimes people try to pretend like, like the middle, like you got Europe, you got Asia, you got Australia, you got Africa, you got North America, South America, and the Middle East. No, the Middle East is Africa. So what we've been talking about is a war that is taking place in Africa that will affect all of us in this regard. More so than a war that is going on in Europe. What do I mean? What's taking place between Israel and Hamas versus what takes place between Russia and the Ukraine. Those things affect us. And so as we explore this, I just wanted to start a discussion as we have our civic conversation when we look at this war, this conflict, heart-wrenching. And it's sad that every time we do this, I have to say this. Let me be clear. I abhor debauchery. I abhor rape. I abhor beheading. I abhor burning. Nobody wants that. Two things can be true as I continue to tell you all. Why do I always have to start that? Because sometimes when I'm saying what I'm about to say, people begin to say, well, you know what, they started it. Well, it ain't about who started it. It's still about being human. And it's about being humane. And so, Pastor Lacey, why are we talking about Israel and Hamas? Because when you turn the television, that's all that's on. Ironically, we done ignored the migrant crisis in New York City. Who would have told us that we would have, like every day something was taking place with the migrant crisis. And now here we are, not paying attention to it at all, paying attention to what's going on in what we call the Middle East. But all I'm just saying is the peninsula, the Suez Peninsula of Africa. It's Africa. The Suez Peninsula of Africa is just as much as Africa as Madagascar is. That's what it is for me. Now, you can have a different view, but nonetheless, then articulate it and explain it. So we experiencing this struggle that every time we turn on, we see this thing, and we see the aspect of the humanization of those who have experienced pain and loss on the Israeli side, but not as often in the Gaza side, because basically Hamas started the war. And so that's what people are saying. Pastor Lacey, let's be clear. How would you feel if your daughter was raped? How would you feel if your mother was beheaded? How would you feel if your son was shot or burned alive? Those are the things that are taking place. So when we're in here, what I wanted to do was just back up, making sure that you are informed as you engage in a conversation so that you're not trapped by the police, the CR police, the politically correct people in this regard. So here we are. So you can also go online and see where we're going in our class. First of all, we're looking at who are the Palestinians? Who are the Palestinians? That's a great question when you say that. The Palestinian people are Arabs, meaning they're Muslims. They believe in Allah, which is nothing more than God. And actually, when you look at the word God, I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow your mind. Jesus did not speak Greek, nor did Jesus speak Hebrew. Jesus spoke Aramaic. And the word for God in Aramaic is Allah. Oh, yeah. I wanted to just get on everybody's nerves in this regard. So here we are, the Palestinian people are Arabs who live and have lived throughout history in a certain geographical region in the Middle East, Africa. Palestinian is used to refer to the geographical region spanning from the Mediterranean Sea in the east of the Jordan River to the west. That's what we have. And what you want to understand is during this time, Palestinians, Christians, Muslims all lived together. They did for a long time. And what we began to see is that from 1570, listen to the number that I just said. Let me write this on the board. So you can see this. 1517 to 1917. 200 years by the Ottoman Empire. And when the Ottoman Empire failed, when it lost, meaning it no longer existed, 200 years. I want to let you, that's a long time for an empire. That's a long time. And yet it failed, so that in November the 2nd, 1917, in this year that I have already articulated, we have what's called the Balfour Declaration. It is in our chat. Can I have somebody read it? And if we can put that on the screen, it'd be great, or just in the chat, whatever. Whatever's open. If we can't put it in the chat, if we can't put it on the screen, that's fine, but certainly remind people in the chat so I don't have to read it.
Sir, is that the letter? It appears to
Yes,
be
sir.
Okay, got you. Okay. Wait. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zaritzi aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur James Balfour.
Wow. And so that's people's, and again, I have been attacked, and people have told me, it's like, Lacey, but what just happened? I'm like, what happens cannot be, what took place on 3 weeks ago, or 2.5 weeks ago, was barbaric. It wasn't good. It was terrible. But why did it happen? And so the point is, why are you mad at me for asking this question? Oh, that blue's not good. Let's see if this next blue. Why? That's the notion. And what happens is that when we ask why, they're saying we ignoring the pain and the debauchery that they have experienced. But what you have to understand is what builds up underneath that. You and I know, all of us have been in relationships that after a while, we just snap. I ain't saying you kill somebody. I ain't saying you cut somebody up. What I'm saying is you like, I ain't doing this no more. I'm through with this. And sometimes you, in that regard, you have said to yourself, I don't care. And these people who have been in this situation have now said they don't care no more. Now, is that fair? No, it's not. But do we need to understand why? Yes, that's the important point for us to do so. Because as I said in my sermon on Sunday, not only do we have why, throw that one away. Not only do we have why, but watch this. We got $14 billion. Why is it so important for us to spend $14 billion in this? And I think another 60, I think it might be 61 billion. So that's Ukraine. And then this is Israel. So basically almost 100. And then they got they threw in like $9 billion for the border and all that stuff. That's a throw in. So let me give you the best thing for you to see. Watch this. Then I'm gonna go back to you. I want you to react. I can't wait for you to do this. This country that is broke, we can't get a speaker. Inflation is high. Okay. We can't pay off student loans. Okay. But yet we want to find over $104 billion for wars or borders. Everything revolves around a border. Wow. That's crazy. How does it happen? How can that affect us? What allows us to be able to do that? Questions? Anybody want to talk? I'll keep going. But just think about that. And these can be people that we like. They're people that we voted for. And again, it doesn't mean, all I'm just saying is, come on, grown folks. I love this. I love what somebody would say. Grown folks are talking and it can be complicated. So let me be clear. This conversation is complicated, but don't rush me. Don't rush us in this regard. Like, wow, that's a lot of money. For those, and again, next year, this is your pastor talking. I'm still paying off taxes that I owe for last year. So my money is going, some of my money and some of your money. In fact, our money is going for this $104 billion. That's if you pay taxes. And maybe some of y'all don't. and so now you just logged off. I understand it, but I'm saying I pay my taxes. And when I think about my money not going for schools or for daycare centers or for nursing homes or for parks, but going for war, for missiles, for somebody else, these are facts. Somebody started to talk. Was it you, Chris? I don't know who it was.
Yeah, it might have been me. Yeah, I was thinking one of the things, I guess, that's an astronomical amount of money. And I mean, some of it, I guess, is in a way, it's the U.S., the country wants to spend it, while the money in Ukraine, I guess it's probably to do anything to stop Putin from, turning everything back into, Cold War USSR, to try to get that squelched at all, I wouldn't say at all costs, but as much as possible. Now, as far as over in Israel, okay, all right, so I guess I'm being cut off for you to explain that.
No, but I was going to go with what you were saying. I looked down, is that's one of the challenges that we have is what you brought up is, what does it mean to be a proxy? And so what we begin to see in this whole thing, we're actually dealing with a proxy. We're dealing with Russia. Oh, where's my thing? Got close. Y'all know. Okay, let me say RUSSIA, Russia, and then we're also, in addition to looking at Russia, we're looking at Iran. And I told you all last week, we got in bed with Iraq. Because of our feud with Iran. And so all of these are proxies so that we prevent from having WW, World War III. So so now what you have are proxies, meaning that there is a beef. Think about this. Let me blow your mind. I'm gonna move my camera. I'm sorry. Put my camera up. There it is. Okay, sorry. Remember that America went out of its way to say that evidence has not been revealed to prove that Iran was involved in what took place on October the 7th. Y'all heard that, right? But American intelligence quickly said emphatically that it was the Islamic Brigade or whomever that the hospital blew up in there. You got records for that, but now you can't say that. It's because, watch this. To really deal with this tiger is to deal with Iran. That's the deal. And then once we finally deal with Iran, is to deal with Russia. That's the aspect. And so to me, is there a difference? And let me tell you this, and let's talk. Friends, no video. I saw this. Is the video resolved? I just saw this.
Oh no, that was just never mind.
It was an accident. Okay, because I can only respond. So, wow, I lost. So, friends, tell me this. Oh God, I lost my train of. So when you're looking at this aspect of potential war with Iran, potential war in Russia, the only thing that stops us is that we don't want it. But the challenge happens. How can you say that you are not involved, but yet you can ship weapons? You can ship people that can work behind a computer or something like that, as if it makes a difference. And that's what we're dealing with in this, not only just with Israel and Hamas, but also with Russia and Ukraine, is that America is saying we're not involved. But yet we want to send billions of dollars there. And I'm not, let me be clear, I ain't saying that it's not worth it. But what I'm asking is, then tell me, then what is the difference between you paying for a war and you fighting in a war? But we're not going to put no boots in the ground. But we're going to send $100 billion. Arena, you got the answer.
Oh, I don't have the answer, but I was going to speak to like the amount of money that's being spent in sending the boots on the ground and sending all those people. It's absurd. And it has to do with, like, I know people just pick, or the government picks the priorities. And I was even watching a program yesterday where they were talking about Black farmers and how they've been petitioning for money for farmland here, and they couldn't get that. And they were asking for much less than what's being sent. And it's a matter of the United States not really taking care of home first before helping their friends, their allies, their co-workers, their buddies, in terms of like sending forces overseas. And I was just thinking, if the United States has so much extra money and so much extra weapons, maybe the United States just has too many, because for there to be so much in excess where you can fight these battles, where really, in my opinion, it's more like Goliath beating up on a David type of situation. When I watch it, it's just like, okay, I don't like this person, or I don't like this group of people, so I'm just like get as many people as I can to gang up on the little guy in the situation. And I think it's absurd. And I was watching a program today where they also talked about how it's like an extension of like colonialism, settler colonialism, that happened in the United States and happens in South Africa, and happens in so many places. And it's like a sick cycle of that. I feel like the United States is constantly getting pressured through lobbyists and other groups to get involved in. And at some point, if you have a friend that's always angry at somebody and wants to like get everybody involved and gang up against this one person, at some point, it needs to stop. It's just like, it's absurd.
No, I agree with you. Indeed, it is absurd. And that's one of the challenges if we were able to look at the United Nations. Again, what we are called to do is, who is America? And any lasting peace on any significant thing, America takes leadership on. But if America kind of says we're going to pause on this, it creates some type of moral ambiguity that we are going through, that we are experiencing. And it's going to segue to our next segment that I want to hit upon. Because let me be clear, when you're looking at this thing, and I see you, Kaz, is that Israel has a right to exist. However, understand that Israel exists in the land of Palestine existed before Israel. And I told you last week. In 1911, then by 1917, actually prior to 1917, during the Ottoman Empire, from 1517 to 1917, Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived there together. Period. That's all. But persecution of Jews for a variety of reasons led them to seek for a home. And they sought for a home and claimed this home to be able to have a legacy to come back. But when they came back, there were people that were already there. Facts. That story has to start. And now what happened was, how did both sides negotiate this expansion? Who had the money, who had the resources, and all of that? And then based upon the 1967 war, the Yom Kippur War, 1967, Six-Day War, the Israelis were able to defeat Jordan, Egypt, and Syria and the others. And then they claimed these lands. And these lands that the Palestinians are on now is not a state, it's called occupied. I would turn around and spell it, but y'all know that's too many syllables for me. It's occupied. Go ahead, Kaz.
Okay, I would just say all of what you're saying, Pastor, and everybody else is so true. But I take a step back in the sense that, our church is on Marcus Garvey Boulevard. Many of us pay tribute to Malcolm. Contemporarily, if you look at South Africa, which is a country that we fought for their independence, we all celebrated Mandela when he came to Boys and Girls High School, etc. Their position on Israel and Palestine is not in sync right now as we speak with the United States. The United States is complex. I live in the United States. I pay taxes. I'm just as concerned about Darfur and Congo and Haiti as Israel or Ukraine. And Black Lives Matter globally. And so as a Pan-Africanist, I said I'd take a step back. We can deal with Israel and Ukraine, but the Congressional Black Caucus, our leadership, we need to start first with what's in the interests of Black people or African people, whatever you want to call. That's why I said Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. $100 billion, $14 billion for Israel. They already get more money than any other nation state on a regular, every single year.
They get $3 billion a year.
That's right, every year. And so I would want my leadership to articulate and advocate for money for Black people so that we can, and it's complicated. The politics of Sudan, the politics in Nigeria and other places, but we never get to that conversation because we're always following somebody else's agenda. We don't control the mass media. And so Israel will always be up front. When they have the presidential.
But what you had said, here's the point. I love what you had said, and you're absolutely right. And we were able to see that in those of you who know what has taken place in Zimbabwe with Robert Mugabe. And what has typically happened with some of the Black liberation struggle in Africa is that the leaders have been compromised. They have, meaning that they're not let me say Joe. Y'all gonna be mad at me. Let me just say what Joe Biden said about Barack Obama. He's a clean black man. Y'all forgot he said that. Y'all did, didn't you? Look, did anybody else remember he said that? Let me see. Is anybody's hands up? Y'all didn't remember? Yeah, that's what he said. Who put their hand up? Who said it? I didn't know. Oh, Gary said. Yeah. Okay. So but the point is, typically, when you have complicated characters, it's hard for you to lead a revolution. That's what we say so. However, let me point out to you is that Bibi Netanyahu is a complicated character who is indicted, who's trying to get rid of the judges and the that are overseeing his case. But we ain't bringing that up. But when you look at Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe and others, they began to say, well, this is a dictator. This person did that. This person did that. So, but what you have said, Brother Kaz, is that there is a challenge for us as we need to explore what's taking place on the African continent. And let me just say in expansion what I said in the beginning. Israel is in the African continent. Is not in it. There is no continent called the Middle East. Israel is not in Asia, is in Africa. And so is Egypt and everything else. So is Saudi Arabia. And those are those realities. So we are dealing with that. But why is Israel so important that we can deal with Darfur, that you can deal with what's going on in the Congo? You are absolutely right. And what we typically say of all of those countries in the Middle East, and I'm saying that just to be able to describe it, this region or those that border Egypt, Israel is the only one that has nuclear weapons, and what America says is a democracy. However, along that, even though America supports Israel, America never votes against Israel in the United Nations. So you got all these other countries voting, but America will not, like even with this ceasefire. So those are the challenges that we see in Israel. So I know we say, well, Pastor Lacy, can we focus on another country? Can we focus on? No, we can't, because this is where we are, and this is where we're spending our money. Not only $3 billion a year, $3 billion for a long time. Like, what did that get you? $3 billion a year? Lily, I sent, is Fanta here?
Pastor, can I pose a question?
Gary, let me look up something.
Okay. I would pose a question, and I don't think it has a good answer. But for the $104 billion we're spending, the question is, in the United States,
300.
Well, the 300, right.
I mean, the 3 billion. The 3 billion.
Right, the 3 billion, right. Is the United States' view that the world would be a worse place if Ukraine and Israel fell relative to the others? And would that harm the long-term interest and survival of the United States?
And
it's complicated. Right.
That's the question. And again, the leadership, whether it is Republican or Democrat, whether they are black or white, the answer is yes. And that's why we spend the money. That's what they're saying. I mean, again, let's be clear. Barack Obama did that. But Barack Obama is still telling Israel, like, hey, y'all, be careful on how you come in, because it can be a problem. That's why you got 300,000 people moused up. I mean, lined up, ready to come in. And they are angry, and they want to get revenge. They want to get justice. But the problem is, you done already killed more people than that. And when you pay attention to these languages, they're saying they're savages, they're animals. The moment that you start to dehumanize people, it's easy to wipe them out. When you tell 1 million people to leave where they are, their houses, and to go someplace else. I told you that I heard that on the radio that somebody is in a house with 40 people. You know, I get annoyed when my kids are home. And you got 40 people in a 2-bedroom house with no water, no electricity, and scarcity of food. Those are real things. But again, I'm saying that is not on there. Of course, we're going to hear. And let me tell you, I do hate hearing even the people that were freed as they tell those stories, that it was hell. Yes, it was. And then look at this narrative. Somebody tell me this. I'm about to educate you all right now. Why are they trying to equate October the 7th with 9/11?
That will provide them with more, that makes them more like comrades with the United States and garner more support from them, because then they'll feel like, okay, we were attacked and so were you by quote unquote this same group, but really it's not. And then that's just a way to get more funding, more backing, more political support, more economic support, more military support. So that's why they're trying to equate the two. But really the context and the conditions around both situations are very different.
They're very, absolutely, very different. Anyone, so and let's point out, how are they different? But yet the narrative is, even now they're saying 10-7. And I listen, I'm like, why are you trying to equate it to and let me point this out, and I'll let somebody chime. That's like me saying Black people's going to our struggle, or Asian people going through their struggle, or those that are in the queer community going through their struggle. You never want to compare You never want to compare struggles. Let the struggle stand by itself. What it was bad. But now you will say, it was the equivalent of. Oh, wow.
No,
but if that's the case, before you come in, Chris, if that's the case, can I bring up the equivalent of what took place with African Americans? Where they tell us don't bring that up? It wasn't my ancestors. Go ahead, Beckwith.
No, it definitely wasn't the equivalent, because when you're talking about what happened 9/11, their main goal was to strike at the heart of capitalism, to strike at the heart of the most capitalist place in the world, and the heart of capitalism itself. They saw that symbol, the World Trade Center, as a symbol of business. So that's what their symbol goal, to try to knock that down, knock that out. Or with Hamas, it's different. They're trying to knock a people out. They're trying to eliminate, and they're basically trying to eliminate an entire race.
I beg to differ.
Please go.
I beg to differ, because what Al-Qaeda was trying to do on 9/11 was a reaction to what the United States perceived to have done in Saudi Arabia before Desert Storm. Osama bin Laden considered it a desecration of a holy site for the United States and the Americans to occupy Saudi Arabia in preparation for the war, as a desecration to Mecca and to, oh my gosh, why can't I think of the second place? And so his whole thing was, it was a retaliation for a desecration of a religious site, not necessarily, well, yes, the World Trade Center was a symbol of capitalism, but it was a symbol of the United States, just as the Pentagon and allegedly the White House and the Capitol were to be. They were specific sites within the United States that he was trying to destroy, not the system of government, as payback for the desecration of holy sites in Islam.
And so actually, it's interesting that you have said that, Gary. When we bring that up, that brings up this word right here, as you just said. Payback. And here we are. Let's be clear. Are you guys aware that half of the population of Gaza is under the age of 18? That's crazy. So now if you go in and you destroy them and they grow up, what legacy are they going to have? What are they going to say? And that's what I point out. You can say, you know what, if I was a slave, if I was this, if I was, say all you want to. But once you are able to see your family, when you have been experiencing something, you want to be able to react. And that's the point. And so what we're seeing is a cycle of responses. That's what that is. And the question is, how do we break the chain? But there's a cycle. They respond, Israel respond. And now this is the first time that, like they said, think about this. It is sad. It is sad. It's very sad. But you want to link it to 9/11 and the Holocaust, just to show how bad it is. And now since that, you want to show the world that you're going to level and kill as much as you can. That's what I see. I might be wrong. Somebody help me. And I'm glad that I got a rising junior, a rising senior who was, so she's a junior who's going to be able to tell me, right? Lily, you're a junior?
I guess.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about how the whole half their population is under 18 and how what's going on is literal textbook genocide, because the reason Israel is going after hospitals and stuff is they're trying to basically get rid of anyone who can keep these people alive. They're getting rid of the adults, they're getting rid of the knowledgeable people. They're making it so that it's nothing but a bunch of, in the end, it's going to be a bunch of defenseless children, so they can completely wipe out the Palestinians and just take over their whole country as a whole, which is kind of insane to me, because I was in school the other day and they had an announcement talking about what's going on. And they were like, oh, it's a complex situation. Don't judge anyone for like the side they pick or whatever. Like, both sides have their rights and wrongs. I'm just kind of thinking, I'm like, this is just like, what if, like, basically what happened years ago when white people came to the Americas and took it over. What if there's technology when that happened? That's basically what's going on now. And the only reason that this is getting viewed worldwide now is because in Palestine, there's barely internet, electricity, clean water, etc. The only reason we know about what's going on is because Israel finally got a pushback from Palestine, and they have more of a voice than them. They were able to use it to create propaganda to allow them to victimize themselves further, when in the end, it's more of a reactionary situation.
Well, I like what you said. You're absolutely right. I hate the way they did that. Let me just say that. But you're right. That's how that changed the discussion, that you had to participate in that. You were not going to be ignored, but that's what was happening. And some people be mad and say, well, Pastor Lacey, when I hear them, he said, what something is wrong, why you got to provide a context? I got to explain why they were so angry enough to do this. Let's first do that. These occupied territories, these people who did not have rights, this open air prison led to these things. You got to deal with that particular reality as what you're saying. And there's nothing wrong with that. Picking sides? Well, I'm picking the side of humanity. And so let's be clear. If you want to keep score, 1,300 Israelis died and 4,000 Palestinians died. And now you still want more? Tell me what's wrong with asking that question. But yet that question is considered inappropriate because we got to get rid of Hamas. And let me tell you all something. Oh my God, this is God alone. We did this in this country when we had a civil war. And we said we sought to get rid of anybody who engaged in rebellion against this nation, that they couldn't serve in office, that they couldn't do anything. That only lasted 10 years and they came back. And then we built statues for them in the 60s. And then you get mad at this woke generation that's reminding you that General Lee is a traitor. Why the hell are we paying and naming something after a traitor, somebody that sought to do this nation harm? We've been through that. Desmond Tutu talked about that. What happened with the Truth and Reconciliation campaign in South Africa? It's tough. There needs to be a two-state solution. And yet to run in there and destroy it, we just want to see an America. But the point that I'm pushing you all before I get Jackie to come in is that, watch this. Why don't America hook up with Saudi Arabia? Why not with Jordan? Why not in Egypt? Why is America just in lockstep with Israel? Go ahead on.
Well, I think that it's payback too, because once Israel does go into Palestine, they just say they're going to be looking for Hamas, but they're going to destroy everything. Yet they cannot take it over. They can't take over that land. They're just going to go and destroy, what's there, and then they're going to leave. It's not like they're going to be able to, take over or run it or anything like that.
You're right.
I mean, that's why it seems even more like it's just payback, and it has nothing to do with them really kind of wanting to make a situation any better. They're just trying to make it worse.
And what I want to pull out to you all, that's right. I love it. If it's okay for Israel to have payback, why can't we? Why can't Zimbabweans? And that's what has been happening. Like, no, you can't do that. The World Bank, Robert Mugabe, just do your research. Robert Mugabe and Ian Smith, who was in charge and supported by Israel. Israel supported half of the apartheid practices in South Africa and in Zimbabwe. But when Robert Mugabe came in, he punished the white people. He took their land. Israel, those what we talk, those settlers, they're doing the same thing that the world community condemned Robert Mugabe for letting happen. But yet Israel lets this same thing happen. Do your research. Don't trust me. Do your research. Why do they get to do that, but others cannot? Those are facts. And that's the struggle that happens that has now, which will lead me to my second movement in our discussion. Maybe the kids might have been clumsy. Because again, I don't think no woman needs to be raped. Nobody needs to be beheaded. Let me say that again as somebody gets my clip. But also, somebody in college, their whole career should not be destroyed by something that they say or put their hand to. And I hate that you got billionaires who ain't paying no damn taxes want to destroy the life of these kids. What do y'all think about that? What I'm saying is, in Harvard and all of these people that have actually articulated a pro-Palestinian position without any finesse to the life loss or the challenge of Israel, they have now been outed at their schools, and now schools are wanting to take away money. That's at Harvard, that's at Penn State, Harvard University, and others. But yet, the bedrock that I see from the First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech. But these kids expressed it, whether they right or wrong. You and I have been, and y'all been here long enough to be able, when Farrakhan, I went to go hear Farrakhan speak at Columbia University. What if that came in and says that I supported that Farrakhan has a right to speak? I wouldn't be your pastor. What do y'all think about that? I mean, they're using their money to silence voices, even if it's different. These same billionaires didn't come out when whites were marching on Washington, D.C., when Trump was doing all of this stuff. They didn't have a damn thing to say. But these kids say something, and they're losing jobs. They're rescinding offers. They're not being accepted in a law school because they think that maybe the Palestinians are right. Whatever, but who would help me? Y'all teach me. I told y'all out there. Y'all help me. What y'all think? Go ahead, Chris.
I think the thing is that everybody, on the broad spectrum of things, when they're saying, oh, if you're supporting Palestine, people think it's like you're supporting Palestine, you're supporting Hamas, when the two don't necessarily have to be true.
Absolutely. You're right. And he hit it. That's why I called upon him. And that's the problem that Israel has. I agree that you should go after Hamas, but every Palestinian is not of Hamas. And now you don't mind killing all of them. And I'm like, oh, hell no, that's wrong. And we supposed to say that. That's the deal. He said emphatic. Go ahead, Gary.
I'll preface by saying that there's a guy who's on YouTube who usually does Star Trek videos and commentaries. Steve Shives, you need to check him out. He's really good. But he put out a commentary about the whole Israeli-Hamas situation and why voices usually have been quieted when it comes down to supporting Palestinians. And he very simply said it's the threat of anti-Semitism. If you dare speak against Israel, you are immediately branded an anti-Semite, whether or not you are. But just by speaking out against Israel immediately condemns you as an anti-Semite. I'll share the video afterwards.
No, we got it. No, you're absolutely right in that. And what we want to articulate, that I can still be pro-humanity and not anti-Semitic, but be against the policies of Israel. Because guess what, black man, black woman, we have been against the policies of the United States of America. We are against unqualified immunity. Most of us believe that I tell you what, police will not kill without impunity. Police will not kill without impunity if they know that they're going to lose their job, they're going to lose their pension. But right now, if a police officer is shot anywhere in Podunk, whatever city, thousands of police, they pay money for them to come in here. We value their lives more than anybody else and give them the exemption that they can kill without review. And we criticize that. It doesn't mean we don't love our nation. We still can criticize it. And that's the deal that Israel has now, are those who have set up this knowledge of this, that to be able to speak critical of Israel is to be anti-Semitic. No, we're not we hate Jews. We're hating some of this policy that is established by the Jewish government. And if you read your record, if you read it, Israel is harder on Israel. The newspapers in Israel are harder on Israel and Netanyahu than any paper in the United States of America. Brian, Lily, and Fagan.
Good evening, all in Hotep.
Hotep.
Would you agree? A good way to describe Hamas as the radical mouthpiece of the Palestinian people?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, let's be clear. I love what you said, Brian. What I'm saying is, and what Brian is saying is that Hamas is Palestinian people, but Hamas is not all Palestinian people. And that's the difference. And it's a radical, what they call militant or terrorist. These are those that said, we ain't taking it no more in that regard. And that's what I honestly would believe that. Yes, that's a great, thank you for that help to be able to say that.
One last thing I wanted to say, I heard an interesting fact on the radio today that there are more Jews living in New York than there are in Tel Aviv, and I forgot what the other city is. But I guess abroad in New York State, there are more Jews in New York than all across the country.
That is
New York
correct.
has the biggest population of Jews.
That is correct. And when we look at what took place in 1948, when Israel became a state, it was because of what took place in the United States in America determined what took place in Palestine. And the land was called Palestine, and it had Palestinians. And since 1917, more Europeans were coming in from Europe because of anti-Semitism. And that's why I had Reverend Pittman read the Balfour Declaration. It was trying to find a place for them to be safe. But why should your salvation come at the price of somebody else's? So you took land that took other people's, and I believe George said this, that's the same thing with a Native American. As America expanded, if you want to see a parallel, look at Israel coming into Palestine and Europeans coming into North America. And now we're here. And now it makes it complicated, because what if some Ottawa, some Cherokee, some Apache Indian come to you and say, I found out that this is my house, this is my land. And you're like, no, I've been paying for it. But honestly, it is theirs. So that's where we are. We have a challenge of borders. And yet the United Nations don't want to really participate in it. We saw this when we left debauchery and stopped wars. Our country is 75 years old and been dealing with this war. And that's why hundreds of countries, okay, maybe 50 countries, whether they bad or not, do not wish to recognize Israel as a country. But I told you last week, Russia, Stalin, watch this, it's funny. Saying Stalin and Truman both recognized Russia, recognized this as the same day. But America will not recognize Taiwan. America did not recognize Russia taking over Crimea. These borders make a difference. And that's what we want to say. Don't be duped into the stupid stuff. It's just saying, what is the geo factor that says that this land is more valuable than the other? Come on, Lily. Let me hear what you're going to add.
Okay, so I have two things to say. First thing, the term anti-Semitism has been whitewashed and watered down into thinking that it just means anti-Jewish people. That's not the case, because a Semite is just a person who speaks a Semitic language, which is Jewish people and Arab people. If you're against Palestine, then going by that definition, you're being anti-Semitic. So in reality, it's Semite versus Semite, not Semite versus anti-Semite, you know? Number two is Israel is, as a country, there's like this meme going on the internet saying that Israel isn't even a real country. If you think about it, it's not, because no other country, do you know, has a social media, like just a social media, not a president social media, just like the @Israel, and that's it. That's what they have going on, where they're literally arguing with people on the internet over what's currently going on and generating AI images of like protests and children dying. And they block anyone who calls them out saying that these images are fake, because they're so desperate to push out their propaganda when they know that they're not as much as the victim as they claim they are. That's it.
Oh my God, you just dropping some stuff. What I would say is, so that we don't get pulled off, but I love the fire and what you're saying. And that's what I was pulling out. What Lily basically is saying to you in a 20th century rate. Let's be clear. Hamas, Iran, in other countries, Lebanon, they do not claim Israel as a state. And watch this. And America has some. I'll prepare for you, and I won't do it now because I haven't been prepared till Lily brought this up. America doesn't recognize some countries as a state. Let's be clear. We do that as well. And so those countries said that, no, you're not. And that's what is always arguing, is that, does Israel have a right to exist? And so Israel is forever trying to prove that it does have a right. But the point is, we now got paperwork that Reverend Pittman were. No, you didn't. 1917, somebody says that you need a place, and you looked at several places, and this was the place that you chose. And now you have grown and you have done well. And they said, well, why would you bring up something for 75 years later? Absolutely. But the problem is they've been fighting since then. Those were the wars. But because Israel was financed and was stronger, Israel was always able to repel those that disagreed in Israel's right to exist. And so that's what the language that we're talking about is, that most of us, certainly that of your pastor, believe in a two-state solution. Israel should exist, and so should a Palestinian state. That's my point of view in that regard, because it's hard to put it in a bottle, because I'm living in a country where we kill Native Americans. And so if I'm saying that, then a Native American has a right to claim back the land. And let me be clear, your most liberal justice, Kagan and RGB, they agreed with the United States of America to break every treaty we had with the Native Americans in this country. So what I'm just saying, somebody said, so is this just current events or is it civics? It's civics, because I'm telling you that reason what's going on in Israel is the same thing that is and has going on in your very nation. And for you to understand, and what the Palestinians are afraid of is that they might go the way of the Native American. Think about that. Fagan.
Yes, Pastor. Some time ago, you posed a scenario, justice versus revenge. So my thing is, which one you think the Israeli government wants more?
They want revenge.
Right, but to free the hostages, or to eradicate Hamas? And I just want to pose one more scenario. If Hamas was to come to Israel and say, we will give you one hostage per day so long as you stop the bombing and everything, and maybe give me a little aid also, then that will put Israel in a tough position, because it's a public relations situation, because the people want their hostages, want their families back, right? But the government of Israel wants Hamas out. So I can't imagine we don't know what's happening behind the scenes in terms of negotiations, but what would that pose towards the Israeli government? They'll be in a tight spot.
Well, they want to try to be able to do that. The problem is, the sad part, when you look at these wars that Israel has had, Israel has never faced a catastrophe like this. It's a big number. And Bibi Netanyahu is the most Arnold Schwarzenegger, just want to destroy in that regard. So you got all of this image. So the problem is when you try to live up to something that you are not. And the people are hurting and they want something. But this president, he wants to now lead them into war to be able to kill and punish people. Hurt people. And they want to hurt them. And just think about this. All we're saying, again, you can say Hamas, but you ain't even protecting hospitals. You're not allowing, they're drinking salt water. This is called, and I love what Lily just said. This young girl said, this is textbook genocide. There's no way of getting around it. That's all. Now, if they want to commit genocide, then they can do that. But that's what it's called. You killing a whole group of people. And if America wants to support that, let's do. But let's not pretend that not letting people have electricity, oil, water, fuel, medicine for a country that has 2.2 million people, and you allow 20 trucks in, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. And that's what we're supposed to say. And I said on Sunday, that's like somebody on a death. If somebody is on a deathbed, you do not give them antibiotics. These people, 300,000 people are lined up, ready to come in. They ain't sending nothing in. And here you got hostages being released. And you can get people to go to Egypt because you're saying through our policy, Egypt has to own this problem, because what I left out in 1917, before Israel it became a state in 1948, Egypt controlled the Palestinian area. So let me be clear. And the Palestinian people, I mean, the Arab community, that is Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, they treat the Palestinians as a stepchild, the way we treat our homeless relatives. That's the point. They don't want real responsibility from it either. So don't just, this is not a bang up on Israel. No, those are facts. However, I'm only talking about Israel because of this build-up massive campaign that now quietly, this is what I said, that quietly, why do we have to quietly tell Israel you can't kill everybody? You don't kill 4,000 people. Is that enough? But it has to be done quietly because it don't look good to say, don't de-escalate, don't come in. Because now they amassed all those people there to save face. Watch this. They're going to kill people to save face, and they're not going to kill Hamas. That's the problem. They're not going to kill Hamas. We ain't kill ISIL. We didn't. Let's be very, very clear. It's waiting for the time to attack. That's all. Because these are identities. These are thoughts. And that's what we're called to be able to push our people, even people that we love. Our congressmen, our senators, our governor. I mean, those people say, put pressure on this. But think about this. All of them ain't got no problem going to Israel. Ain't nobody went to Palestine and said, I didn't tell them to stand with Hamas. But you can't go into Palestine and say, I stand with these people. Wow. God just gave me that, and I'm going to end my class. I was going to go further because I want you to react to that. Every world leader is going to say they stand with Israel. Israel's attack against Hamas, who is standing for the people of Palestine. And kids are losing jobs. Kids aren't getting offers. People are being fired. And I might not get an invitation to do something because I asked that simple question. What about the people of Palestine? I do not support Hamas. I do not believe in a tactics of, see, why do I have to keep saying that over and over again? But yet the generals, when they're speaking, they're saying they're animals. We're going to kill them all. And they voted for them in 2006, so they deserve what their hand calls for. I wish I was making it up. Brian.
One last thing I want to say, Pastor. The other night, Dave Chappelle was doing his comedy skit. He stood up for the Pakistani people. He said he don't believe in what they did attacking the Israel, but he stood up with them. He said he was on their side.
He sure did. And then some people walked out. And that's yes. What happened. Yep. And there's always, why is there a price to pay for standing up for Palestine? But not, and again, that's that comparative. And as Brian says, and what I want to say is I thread this needle because this, I mean, again, it might be the beginning of the end for your pastor. And I'm not joking with this by saying that. But what I want to articulate that if I got a mole that wants to try to say this, I do not agree with what is going on with Hamas. And what Hamas has did to those people is indeed barbaric. It is indeed inhumane. It is indeed world crimes. Also, Israel's response of collective punishment, trying to reach Hamas and killing innocent women, children, elderly, is the same to me. And if you want to do the body count, 4,000 and 1,300. And guess what? Israel's count ain't going to go back up did you hear what I just said? Watch this. Israel's count is not going to go back up until they go into Gaza. But as missiles go in, Palestine's count is going back up. And I don't know how many, I mean, we ain't got a list to say how many Palestinians or how many people in Hamas are there. But all I know is a bomb don't discriminate. And let me just share this with you. Think about this. Each one of us got relatives. I went home to Kansas City. I'm gonna go home to Kansas City this week. So please, again, pray for my mom, Ella Winston. So I certainly, it's always my heart. But I was at home Kansas City a couple years ago, and when I was there, I hooked up with one of my relatives. My relatives is a known dope dealer and engaged in criminal activity. I said, dude, you can't be in my car. Because if he is in my car, when the police pull me over, they're going to treat me just like him. But I'm not a criminal. I don't sell drugs. I don't do drugs. I don't rob people. But my relative did. And when the police officer sees us together, the police officer does not make the difference. Does not make the difference. We all look the same. And what I'm telling you, that's what's about to happen. And that's what the pause is. And now it's about, again, we said it's the big payback. We want to hurt them like they hurt us. You already did. And sadly, you can't beat an ideal when you beat people. And that's what we're dealing with that. And just think about this. When you and I talk about slavery, they're like, get over it. Why are you still talking about it? My ancestors didn't do that. But yet we're called to stand aside and say Israel has a right to respond. But quietly, every one person in our leadership is telling Israel to slow down. Why do we got to hide what is the right thing to do and still condemn that and still go after people of Hamas and those like that ilk, whether they be, think about this. I was supposed to trying to get to a Speaker of the House. We got people that are going to be that's running for the Speaker of the House that believe that Donald Trump got robbed from the election. Now that's crazy. That's crazy. There you are, like really the people on the Republican side that have articulated or voted to decertify the election. That's what we're dealing with. So, beloved, it just ain't Israel, it's us. It is all across the globe. And it's up for us to be informed, to educate us so that we're not duped and we can fight back. You say, Pastor Lacey, what can I do? Hold people accountable. Stand up. I ain't asking you to go to no rally. Rallies can do that. Rallies are good. Rallies, you can do whatever you want to do. But when you get a chance to speak, express your point of view. And I love what Brother Bass has said to us. Look, why are we just focused in Europe and over here in the Middle East, as it were, particularly because there's Israel? There are many challenges that are going on that we think other people need to be involved. But I'm just telling you, I'm scared because I can't wait to have grandkids. I want to live old. I want to do this. But I'm just telling you this. There's something about borders because soon China, North Korea, South Korea, we're moving to all of this spot right now. We are on the precipice of World War III. And that has an effect upon all of us. That's why I talk about it. And I want you to, and did I scare you? I should have, because I wanted to. We are on the precipice unless we can find a way. And I'm not saying that these lives, these 1,400 people that lost their lives, American citizens, grandmothers and babies, I'm saying is that you better find a better way. That's it. Any concluding thoughts before we close? I hate to be so somber. He said, Pastor Lacey said the world about to end. Go ahead, George.
I'm just going to say this real quick, Pastor. The fuse is lit. It's a slow burning fuse, and mayhem might come, as you're saying. We don't know what's coming, but it's the bad luck, all the ships over there, that hardware, the money that wants to be thrown out. It's just a bad law. I have bad
And look,
feelings.
and that's our point. And see, watch this. Think about this. Now, it's not necessary, they're not doing that for Israel. Sadly, watch how things can line up. If you didn't have Israel taking place, well, clearly we're supporting what's going on with Israel, that Hamas shouldn't have done that. Let's be clear on that. So if you tell me to pick sides, I pick Israel over Hamas, not over Palestine. However, to see what before this war we had Russia with Ukraine and the Republican Party siding with Putin, siding with Russia. I mean, that's mind-blowing that they side with Russia. And watch this, to let you know all things are political. Joe Biden, you want to link these two things together. What's going on with Israel? And that's what I want you to see. And so all I want to empower my people to know, we want to start articulating what's our interest, what's our concern. It might be different, but we can find $100 billion for wars, but we can't find money to forgive student loans. We can't find money for hospitals. We can't find money, Kathy Hochul, for affordable housing. Want to let y'all know I'm doing affordable action activity on tomorrow at 3:30 at Madison Square Garden. Meet me there. Meet me there at Madison Square Garden, where you see they said the most famous arena in the whole wide world, because it's subsidized by your government. You working, and I wish it was tax day. I wish you could see how much money you give to subsidize. And that sorry Buffalo team. I can say it, not in a press conference. Let me get these last things. I got Fanta, I got Arena and Fanta, and then I'm done.
So I was going to say, and I put in the chat, that it's a shame the same money that they're sending overseas to support wars could be money that could have been used to prevent wars in the first place, whether it be in the Middle East, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in Africa, because I totally agree with there's so many the genocides that are happening there that so much could have been done beforehand, because people
You know what, Arena, and I'll let you respond after me, but actually that's the reason why they're saying they're giving the money to prevent it. That's why they've been giving that, not only just to Israel, but I had said, Fanta, can you show? Fanta, are you still?
Yeah, I'm here. Lily, you have the video to show, right? The one with the money?
Yeah, the money.
Hold up.
So
Wait.
let her stroll down. Watch this. Keep going. So here they are right there. Back up. Come on, keep going. Here they are right there. Stop. That's where we spend our money. Think about that. Now, when you look at that list that America spends in our foreign policy, what do you think about that? What's your reaction to that? What do you see? This is a gradual. Arena, your hand is still up?
Oh, there's no money there for like education.
Oh, no, we're not. No. I'm just saying, if you're going to have foreign aid, what do you think about where the foreign aid is being spent?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I don't see the money being spent for education, for food, for farmland, to provide land for people, to determine how much land does each person need. You know, like if Israel is saying we need more land, you know, have a negotiation. How much land does how much personal space does each person need to really live in? You know, like things like that can be like done with like logic and reason, where you can really have a conversation, sit down, say, this is what I need, this is what one group needs, this is what another group needs, and to use your money to negotiate that, as opposed to using the money to say, okay, how can we build a better bomb? How can we destroy what's already been built by a group of people so we can just take over, move them out and feel okay. Like that's what I'm saying. I don't see money going towards
Okay.
and
Can I say-
rationing and
Sorry.
people who are
I'm
hungry.
gonna get her in. Hold on. Okay, I
Can I
got it.
say-
And people who are
Bottom line-
hungry, like I don't see food money going there to build farmlands or greenhouses, things like that. Solar energy
Okay.
for people who are out of fuel. Like I don't see money going
All right.
to those specific things that would prevent a war.
Hopefully.
Sorry,
Okay.
Rena, I want to step on you just for a second, just to address the question that Lacey is asking. It's a disparity that the bottom 5 that are barely getting money are the countries and the nations that were affected the most by slave trade. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. The whole thing. I think I want to be a part of this when this is not online because we will get snatched. But for Israel, which is not a state, to get 3.3 billion of our US dollars when the Black and brown community, I'm so emotional right now, but you know what it is when we are the number 1 payers of taxes, when the elite don't pay the taxes and our monies are not even going to support the people of the nations that we come from that were robbed and continue to suffer. That's disgusting.
All right. I see it. I see it. I like that. That's okay. I love what you're saying. Fagan?
Yeah, I second what Fanta is saying about African countries, a disproportionate amount compared to, those countries at the top, but also the countries nearest to us, like they talk about Mexico and such.
There you
The
go.
countries
That's where I was
closest to
going.
us. There's nothing going in our
Go
backyard.
ahead, Fagan.
It is going so far out. Countries probably we don't even familiar with, in terms of, their total culture and history. But we see the suffering right next door to us. The homeless situation that's happening in New York now is stemming from everything coming from Mexico and
Here you got it.
those southern countries. Where's it coming? I mean, what's going on?
That's where I wanted to go. I heard what Fanta said. I heard, and I agree with her. And I also agree with what Arena said. But my 100% is that, wow, on this, Mexico ain't on there. Venezuela ain't on there. Colombia ain't on there. Ecuador ain't on there. Canada ain't on there. Haiti ain't on there. The stuff in our own hemisphere. Why are we so in? So now I think Brian's going to have the answer. Why are we so invested in this region? One word, a 3-letter word.
Oil.
Who said that? Jack?
Yeah.
That's what it is. This is all about oil. Period. That's where we are. And that's the sad point, that our morality is compromised because of oil. And Israel allows America to be a player in that oil industry. And then guess what? Outside of Gaza is supposed to be, which I didn't know. I had to double check to see that they got access to gas, like some major reservoir. And so what this part that will scare you, if this is the case, if Gaza has gas and Saudi Arabia and Somalia and Egypt and Yemen and Qatar and all of them have a fossil fuel. Israel doesn't have anything. Can you imagine? We fighting over a piece of land that don't have oil or gas and is landlocked. I mean, well, no, part of Israel does have access. Excuse me, pardon me. It does. That's how they got part of it. But nonetheless, it is in a struggle. So that's our challenge. And I want us to see that as we discuss things with our friends, and when you get a politician and with yourself, to be able to be informed, that we might be able to advocate and stand for, truth. Last, Irena?
I was saying that's one of the points that I was bringing up, that if more money went towards solar energy and things that prevent wars, because this is all being fought over land with oil, a lot less would be necessary. A fewer wars would be fought, because if there was money invested where everybody had access to clean energy, everybody had access to solar energy, and that was provided for, and there's clearly money worldwide for things like that, a lot, we wouldn't have to see on television ethnic cleansing. We wouldn't have to see families being torn apart at, borders. People would have enough. And that's the problem that I'm seeing with the budget, is that it's not going towards the right places. It's like a budget that's reactive instead of a budget that's proactive at preventing problems.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that's the point. But this is yes, you're absolutely right. And that's what is certainly needed for the growth of our nation and certainly our world, to be able to learn that. However, the reality is many people, many nations do not want, we don't believe in real global climate, a global change, because in order to make the change, it's an expensive change. But there are, ironically, as sad as destitute as is, some of the stuff that is getting out via social media and all of that and phone calls is because people have solar power in Afghanistan, in Palestine, in Gaza. They do. And think about that. They cut off that, but you can still harness the power of the sun, but if it was already there. And so that's the deal that we're called to find out how to be able to do. Even as I think about that with our church, we're trying to figure out how can we be more solar dependent. But it costs too much money to transform. Once you get it, it's cheaper, but the energy, it just costs so much money getting there. And you're right, and what we call that is the peace dividend. The peace dividend. So, all right, we're thankful for all of you all who have participated even in this discussion. Deacon Bet, what can you close us in prayer?
Let us unite our hearts. Eternal God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this discussion. And we just ask, oh Lord, that although peace does seem hard to attain, and it's hard to understand sometimes why there's so much conflict and the silliness over the conflict. So Lord, we just come before you right now asking for a solution. We ask, oh God, that you search the minds and hearts of men and women, that perhaps there can be some kind of change, there can be some kind of reckoning and understanding that, without peace, this world would be, I can't even describe what this world would be without peace, Lord. But we know that you are the peacemaker. You are the one that can set things straight. So we ask, oh Lord, we leave all this in your hands. And as we dismiss from this space, Lord, always keep us in your presence. Please let us keep you close to our hearts. In Jesus' name we ask these things. Amen.
Amen. And again, while we spend most of our time, thank you, Deacon Beckwith, while we spend most of our time talking about something that is several thousand miles away, I'm just letting you know what's just about 20 miles away from you. Is Pastor Lacey's at 3:00 leading a press conference to hold our governor accountable, because again, we need to have affordable housing, period. New York is in the midst of a crisis, a housing crisis, and African-American people are leaving New York City going south. Those are facts. Those are facts. And our church will not survive if this continues at this rate. So if you are available, meet me or tell somebody else. Meet your pastor. Just tell them. All right? Love you. Peace.
Love you too.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, John.
No offense.